Hello everyone, welcome back to the You Like That podcast. For another week, you're joined with me. My name is Adam, and I am your host of the You Like That podcast. This week, new show, one that, for a movie that I've been most anticipated for quite a while, one that's been shrouded in a little bit of controversy in its casting, and of course it's a video game adaptation. There beckons many reasons to be concerned straight off the bat. This week we're looking at Uncharted. Uncharted being the much beloved PlayStation franchise games, action adventure. It's been one of my favorites for such a long time. That's going to be our main show for this week, our main review. So we'll get into that as our main one. I'm going to jump in with the quickest bit of news because I want this to be a much more Uncharted heavy episode, and then we'll round out with a couple Uncharted questions at the end. So let's jump into the brief bit of news for the week. Alright, so the only news that I need to bring to you for this week, because I couldn't leave this out, with the announcement of Sonic 2 being very close to release, getting a new trailer, seeing a bit more of Knuckles, a lot more of Dr. Eggman, they came out straight away and said, Sonic 3 is happening, confirmed, and we're getting a spin-off series with Knuckles. Idris Elba coming back to voice Knuckles again, and a third Sonic movie is already in the works. Me and Jack called this from the first movie. This is going to be a solid franchise. One that is probably should never have worked from its beginnings. You know, it had the terrible animation choice of how to view Sonic until, you know, a bunch of uproar and people redesigned him. Incredible. And a great movie. The second one, of such high hopes for the second one. And it's great to see that the franchise is really kicking off. We're getting series. I wouldn't be surprised if we get other series after that. It's going to be a long-running franchise, and I see it. Bringing Sonic back into the light that he deserves, because Sonic and that movie, wow. We spoke about it enough. If you still haven't seen Sonic the Hedgehog, the live-action movie, go and see it. But that's it. That's the only news for the week. Let's quickly go and jump over to the main review for the week. All right, main review. Uncharted. Let's jump right into it. I've been so anticipated for it and looking forward to be able to talk about this movie. Granted, probably would have been different if Jack had seen it. Jack, I don't know how you would have taken this movie. It's so hard to tell with you in some movies, and this is one of the ones where I go, I don't know, man. You might have enjoyed it, you might not have. But we'll get into my thoughts very soon. So let's quickly run through. So it's released 2022, directed by Ruben Fleischer, who did Zombieland, he did Venom, runtime of 116 minutes. Very surprisingly, much shorter than I anticipated for this movie. Budget of 120 million, and as of recording, box office has raised 139 million in, which is a fairly decent return on something like this. Now, the Rotten Tomatoes score, this is where, you know, it's apples and oranges here. It's the critics, 40%. Right? That's a video game adaptation review. It was always going to be like that. But the audience pulls through 90% with the audience. And that's of a couple thousand reviews. If that doesn't tell you straight away where this is going, yes, strap in. So our cast, the controversial cast we're looking at here. So we have Tom Holland as Nathan Drake, Mark Wahlberg as Victor Sullivan, Antonio Banderas as Santiago Moncada, Sophia Ali as Chloe Fraser, and Tati Gabrielle as Joe Braddock. So, Uncharted. If you are new to Uncharted, Uncharted is a much beloved Sony Playstation game franchise that has spanned over 4 main games, a spin-off game, and it has been the let's say almost the mascot of Sony Playstation outside of your Crash Bandicoots and all that. Still created by Naughty Dog, who had the rights and did all these games as well. Instantly from the first game became one of the greatest games, action adventure games since your earlier Tomb Raiders and such. I've played all of them. It is my personal favorite Sony franchise that there is. I've clocked every game. I love them so much. The stories in themselves are absolutely beautiful. The game itself is beautiful. No game has ever been shit and rubbish. Between the 4 games and the spin-off, they've all been perfect. They've all been just as good as each other. Their own stories. And you can just honestly go onto YouTube and just watch every cutscene put together from all the games, and you'll have a great watching of a movie in itself there. So, obviously, having those games very early on, everyone was like, well, this would herald well as a movie. Surely, would it not? So, talks of a movie for this came around in 2008, where representatives for Sony came through to say, yeah, a film is in production. We're planning on making it. Avi Arad was signed on very early to helm most of it, help writing it and such. And since then, it just went through absolute developmental hell, losing many directors, many writers, changing actors, up until 2017, when Travis Knight was supposed to come on to direct these films, and up until 2020, changed due to scheduling conflicts with Tom Holland coming on to play Nathan Drake. It was something Travis Knight was no longer able to fulfill, to complete. So before everything kicked off, they got Ruben Fleischer to come in to agree to direct the film and see what he can do. So with that, he came in. He brought megastar Tom Holland in. Previous megastar Mark Wahlberg, still a great actor, but it's Mark Wahlberg, you know. He's not in his prime anymore, you know. To come through and make an Uncharted flick. So, off of all that, straight away, what do I think of this Uncharted film? A game franchise that I've held so close to my heart, that I've waited for many years of hearing about the possible rumors of an Uncharted movie coming out, and I finally see it. And what are my thoughts on this video game adaptation of my favorite franchise? Surprise be to no one that I absolutely love this film. This was an absolutely perfect Uncharted film. It had it, as always with films like these, they have their plot holes here and there. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about an absolutely brilliantly made Uncharted film with, controversially, a perfect casting. And I'll explain why later. I had so much fun with this film. The action is brilliant. The set pieces are brilliant. The story, it takes from many different elements from the game, so it uses its source material. Granted, it doesn't pick one and stick with that. It takes pieces, throws them in to sort of create its own story. So it's going to be a bit different to what you sort of know of. If you've played the games and you follow the stories along, it's going to be different to what you sort of know, but you're going to have an understanding about every sort of little set piece that there is. So the main premise is just that Nathan Drake is trying to find this lost treasure that his brother Sam had been helping him with postcards and that, try to locate. And then upon getting the help of Victor Sullivan to locate this key that they need to start unlocking certain things and unlocking this mystery of this lost treasure. Along the way, Antonio Banderas' character, Santiago Moncado, massive, wealthy family business, who originally were built off of this lost pirate treasure and that, and have since in the last 500 years been trying to uncover the secret and where that treasure is hidden, because it's not gone, it is only lost. It's a big title for the movie there. So it's just a whole action adventure. We got to get this key, figure out this mystery, locate where this lost treasure is, find that lost treasure, reap the rewards. That's an Uncharted game. So it takes elements from the fourth game and the third game, respectively. The third game, obviously, the airplane cargo scene, very famous in that one there. The fourth one, including the discussion of Nate's brother Sam, the lost pirate treasure in the pirate ships in the underground cavern onto the islands, all taken off of that film as well. So you have sprinkles of the games in here, enough to put it together as its own story. Because where some people look at it and go, you have 4 games plus a spin-off, surely you can just choose one of those and make that a movie. Personally, I say that's a terrible idea. Because those games are so cinematic in themselves, you've already experienced that movie. What they make is going to be just a recycled version of the game that you spent 10 to 15 hours putting time into and witnessing that story unfold. technically you've already got that movie. I think it's much better to have that as take elements of those games so you have that source there and you're not going off on a random tangent. You're bringing in what people already know, but you're creating your own story to be a bit different and have a little bit of a different feel to it, and people go, I know what they're doing here, but I like the story that they're pulling through with it because it's different and it's not what I know. So, personally with the story, I like what they're doing here with the story and adding those elements in here. So we get the third and fourth games added into here. Also, spoiler warning, there will be some spoilers in here because there's a few little Easter eggs and such that maybe you want to keep as a secret, and plus there is a mid-credits, post-credits sort of scenario here. So, fair warning coming into that now as I talk more in depth to it here. So, the first thing I'll touch on is going to be Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg's casting as Nathan Drake and Victor Sullivan. So, originally, Mark Wahlberg was supposed to play Nathan Drake. That was the original casting choice for him until many, writing changes and directing changes, creativity differences and that later. And they changed their mind and went for Tom Holland, an actor who is very well in his prime, to play a younger Nathan Drake, and then recast Mark Wahlberg to play Victor Sullivan. Now, obviously, when this was first announced, that's where the big, oh my god, this movie's gonna suck. Everyone was just like, nah, screw this. It's such poor choice. Why didn't we get Nathan Fillion? Why didn't we get any other old man that can play Victor Sullivan? The Nathan Drake that we have in this film is 25 years old. That's the age that he is in this film. Now, in the games, he's more mid-30s, late 30s in the games. Hence why he has a much older look. Now, Tom Holland, his performance as Nathan Drake is perfect. As a young Nathan Drake, it is perfect. And you can see the similarities between him and the game version of Nathan Drake. Now, albeit this is because Nolan North was on set to help out with Tom Holland performing as Nathan Drake. Nolan North is the voice actor who did Nathan Drake through all the games, and most people know Nolan North. If you're into video games, you know the name Nolan North. He's done many of your classic characters, and Nathan Drake is one of his biggest. So he's on set to help and make sure that he's portraying this character as well as he can in this younger setting. So straight away, that's when you got to go, okay, understand that casting choice now. Having this younger Nathan Drake allows you to set up for future films and eventually start to make him older. I like what they do with that. That's a good choice. Yes, it's so different to the game that it's very hard to discern the difference of, but it's a movie adaptation. You don't want it to be perfectly to the source. Sometimes you do. There's aspects when you want to go, I want it to be more like the source. But Tom Holland is great. He's such a great actor. He does the mannerisms perfectly. He has the stunt training off the back of Spider-Man. So doing these intense stunts, granted his stunt doubles and whatnot else, he's made for that. He's made for that filming. A younger person has that better mentality of doing that opposed to an older gentleman. Now with Mark Wahlberg's casting, same scenario. With Nate being 25, that puts Sully more or less in his 40s and such until he gets to his older scenario, into his more 50s and 60s and whatnot else. So you build it up from there, and the biggest thing was, oh my god, he's not old and he doesn't have his mustache. Okay, I get it, but Wahlberg does a great job as portraying Sully. Same thing with Holland. The mannerisms are perfectly done as a younger version of Sully, and realistically, in an action adventure like this, it kind of works better having two more younger guys taking this on opposed to, a more middle-aged and then an older gentleman trying to do shit. Sully was always a big part of the games in helping Drake do a lot of things as well. And, Sully's whole persona is he's always been a swindler as well. So he's had this younger coming into this thievery and locating lost treasures and all that type of thing, swindling people out of their money, lying, all that good stuff that we know about Victor Sullivan. Mark Wahlberg does that perfectly and portrays that great as his character. Granted that he does not look the same, you just got to look past it. Just look past that and look towards the future. Because when we do get the post-credit scene in this film, they've introduced Mark Wahlberg with the mustache. Holland also throws him a cigar, citing that, Sully always had a cigar. And it sets up where a potential sequel can go. So where some other sort of Easter eggs and references to the games that we have in here. So the film opens to a flash forward opening. So the film opens on the cargo scene in the plane. This is something that the games have done before. In the second and fourth game, they've both done that flash forward opening where it begins where the big set pieces happened. So really enjoyable. It's a quick little one. It's an interesting way to open up a film, yes. But when it comes back around to it, into the third act, it's cool. It's great. But it's a good throwback to the game there. You've also got Nate using Sam's lighter as well. The lighter being something that's always been used in the games. Granted, it had worked a lot better in the games. This was more of a, for the fans type, he still has a lighter. Doesn't always work until it needs to. It's a lovely little effect there. Also having Sam's ring that he leaves Nate at the boys' orphanage home. Again, something that's used in the fourth film as well with Sam and Nate. Again, with the famous marking, Sic Parvis Magna, which is greatness from small beginnings. That's the tagline for Uncharted. That's what people really into the game love that saying, And then the last one is the post-credit scene. So before the credits roll, we get the last shot there of a prison in a South American type, possibly Panama, referencing to the game. Shot going through the cell, and we see Sam head down, writing another postcard to Nate, insinuating that he is still alive, despite being told by Sully that he died on a mission together. Where, again, that ties in really well for the future. It sets up more, excuse me, of the fourth game's storyline there about Sam reuniting with his brother finally to take on this last mission and get it all done. However, the post-credit scenes roll through, and that is when we see Drake having a conversation with a man whose name is Gage about a lost Nazi map, and speaking about Gage's boss, Roman, who's really interested in Drake's necklace. Now, the name Roman is something that fans from the first game should know as the first game's villain, Gabriel Roman, who was also after the lost Nazi treasure map in which Drake goes to find the legend of El Dorado. So this sort of sets up more or less the next movie in a sense that it's funny that they're going to take something back from the first film to use as possibly their plot for the next one. I like that because it's plot points that we know of, but we're getting it in a new way. As said, these games acted as so cinematic, you can watch them as a movie. You've got 4 movies there straight away. But if you get a direct carbon copy of that game in a film adaptation, it's just recycled garbage. But taking these elements, it's interesting, and I really like how that could pan out. So obviously, a future for Uncharted is massive. It's big. It can happen. Ruben Fleischer's come out to say, it's subject to the film earning enough money in the box office, which I'm banking that it's going to make a decent amount of profit to be able to harness and make another Uncharted film. This could go down TV series route. This can go down more films and kick off an absolutely beautiful franchise as the games have done. So regardless of what the critics have thought, because this isn't the first time that a new film adaptation of a video game has suffered to the critics but has garnered to the audience more than anything. If we remember Mortal Kombat's live-action remake from last year in 2021, which boasted a 54% critic review to an 86% audience. You're looking along the same lines there, and Mortal Kombat just got picked up for its sequel finally. Critics don't like video game movies. That's the bottom line. But this Uncharted film, it has so much in it where it's enjoyable on an action-adventure level. It's, it's definitely a lot more for the gamers that are into the Uncharted franchise. As a standalone action-adventure film, it might not work as well because you might not understand the characters and what certain things might mean because plot points are put in there based off of a source that's already happened. So if people aren't aware of that, it may seem a little bit silly and, unbelievable. But to what we know, it's absolutely brilliant. So I absolutely love this movie, and the part that really sealed it off for me was a lovely cameo appearance from Nolan North himself in the film. This is after the cargo scene, and Nate and Chloe fall in the water. They wash up onto a beach, and they're walking along, and a man sitting on a beach lounge just says, "Whoa, what happened to you guys?" And bang, it's Nolan North. And the dialogue just goes, "Yeah, we just had this crazy thing falling out of a plane." And he goes, "Huh, I've had something like that happen to me too." And then they walk off. It's absolutely incredible because that's the voice actor recounting his tale of the third game in that as well. So absolutely brilliant that they utilize him, not just as an on-set advisor, but also gave him that little cameo for the fans, obviously. Anyone else that doesn't know it wouldn't have a clue who that guy was. But really cool to introduce him there like that. But that's Uncharted. Uncharted is absolutely amazing, and I think it serves really well for all the fans of the games. I think you'll really enjoy this as a film if you try to look past Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg as their respective characters, understand what sort of plot these films are going to start to tell, and why we're getting younger versions of these characters. It's looking to the future. It's obviously a plan to look for the future and make sure these characters don't age too much in real life. And, you can build something a bit different, but it's going to last a lifetime. So it's well worth the watch. I 100% believe that myself. It is out in cinemas. Go watch it. Find a weekend or something. It's definitely worth the watch. So let's round out this episode. I'm going to answer a couple Uncharted related questions, and then we'll finish off this episode. All right, so last couple of questions to round out this episode here. If you want to send me any questions, go over to the Instagram. Link is in the description. Head over to there. There'll be a post that goes out before I film. Where you can just send whatever you want. I don't care what it is. Send it through, and I'll answer it. But this week, sticking with just a couple of Uncharted questions here from Jack. So Jack, which Uncharted game is your favorite? And that is so hard to answer. I love all of them. I want to say, I have to say Uncharted 2, because that was the first game that I played. It was one that I found at the video store, borrowed it, and went, wow, I really love this game. I'm going to go find the first one. Found the first one, same thing, loved it. And then as they all came out from then, they were all absolutely amazing. So the second one has that little piece of my heart where it's more sentimental than anything. Still one of the greatest games that there is. But I'd go that, and then probably at number 4, A Thief's End. Story-wise, it was really well driven. It wasn't too silly in its supernatural sense that the previous games have had before. And it was just a lovely wrap-up to Nathan Drake's story in the game franchise. So I'm going to go with that. And then your last one, which is, would you rather Uncharted be inspired by the games or a direct adaptation of one? So as I said in the review as well, I definitely prefer it to be inspired. A direct adaptation is not going to cut it, purely because of what I said. The games are created in such a way that it's so cinematic in the cutscenes and how long of a game it is as well. You have a movie based off that already. If you just type it in on YouTube and just put Uncharted 2 cutscenes, it'll be a couple hours there of just a whole movie you can watch, and it fits, and it makes so much sense, and it's enjoyable to watch as well. So a direct adaptation, no, because the game serves that basically already, and you're just going to get a recycled movie that you've technically already seen if you've played the games. So inspired by, much better. Take the characters, take elements, take those little plot points, chuck them into their own story, much better. And then you can further prolong that franchise and keep it going. And I think that's the way to get Uncharted to thrive as a film series. So, thank you for those questions, Jack. Thank you for everyone who stuck around here, listened to this one here. This was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Not my most, but it's up there in my top 3 or 4, I'd say. So, thank you for joining me here and listening to this episode here. If you have liked anything that you've heard so far, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to YouTube. If you're on audio, please rate the show on Spotify. 5 stars. I'm not asking for much. 5 stars would be nice. Or wherever you're listening to this on any audio platforms, you can find us on. Links are in the description for all of our socials everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us all there. If you're interested in soccer at all, I have another podcast. It's called Left on the Bench with my best friend Jacob. Links for that in the description below. We talk about the Premier League. It's amazing. Gotta love the sport. Also, there is a second show that I do on this channel. It's called You Like That Extra. It is a end of the week review of something that you guys suggested me to watch. Something older, something that possibly I have not seen myself, which is a lot of movies of old that I haven't seen. So if there's one that you really like, just reach out and just say, I've seen this movie. What do you think of it? Can you do it as a review? And I'll do that. So last week I did Vanilla Sky, courtesy of Jess. Go check that out. It was an interesting Tom Cruise movie, to say the least. And this week, we don't know yet. It's up to you guys. The main show, though, for next week, I'm throwing in a bit of a spanner. I'm going completely different on a movie choice here. There is a new movie out, and it's called Serrano. It's a musical drama type film. It's a very interesting choice. Go watch the trailer for it. Spelled Cyrano. You'll instantly know who the actor is that I'm leading to. And it is going to be very different of a movie for me to look. But I saw the trailer and I thought, that seems kind of interesting to me. I'm going to throw a spanner in the works and do something completely out of my field. And see what I think of a movie of a different genre to what I'm used to doing. So hopefully you all enjoy that one there. And until I see you all for that episode, or if I catch you back in the past for any of the previous ones, my name's Adam, and thank you for listening to You Like That Podcast.